Welcome back. In the last video we looked at how we can use a alert to alert users to a certain message on the web page, and in this video we're going to take a look at some different methods of how we can include JavaScript onto our web pages. And we'll also take a look at how we can include comments in JavaScript for making notes and also commenting out our code when we no longer need it. So if you go into the JavaScript folder and still in the understanding JavaScript section, I'm just going to select the first one that we created and then press Command or Control D to duplicate, or if you prefer you can copy and paste. So I'm going to call this comments and display in JavaScript. And then open up brackets or your text editor and then drag in the new file that we just created. And then open up the index page. So we've got the alert box that we created in the last video. So if we just get rid of that for now, so we don't get that popping up every time we go into the browser, and then change the title to comments and display in JavaScript. And in fact, we don't need to use this external alert file, so we can get rid of that. So open up your script tags, either in the head or the body section, it doesn't matter. So in the last video, we looked at adding a alert to alert the user to a message. It doesn't have to be text that we can alert to the user. We can also use numbers and maths. So we can alert 10, take away 3. And then if we go over to the browser, you can see that the calculation has been performed and we get the result of 7. So as well as the alert box, there's different methods we can use to display JavaScript. So another method is the console log. So instead of the alert, we can type in the console and we can send a log to the console of the same message. So if you go over to your web browser, so if you're using Chrome, just right click and go to Inspect Elements. And you can toggle between the bottom and the side by clicking these 3 dots and then clicking on the dock side that you prefer. So then if you go down to the bottom, just make a bit more space there, you can see there's the console tab. So select the console tab and you can see that the result that we've just created of 7 is appearing in the console. And the console is often used for debugging. Rather than displaying alerts to the user on the screen, we can just keep it confined to the console. And we can print things to the console such as error messages. So that's really good for debugging. So if we go back over to brackets, as well as the alert and the console log, we can also use what's called the document.write. And as we go through the course, you'll see the word document quite often. The document is the full web page that we're targeting, and we're going to write to the page whatever is in between these brackets. So save and then refresh, and now appearing on the web page we've got the result of 7. But we need to be careful when using document.write. If it's used after the page has fully loaded, it will overwrite the whole page with the result. So we need to be careful when using that. And again, as well as maths, we can include text, such as hello. And that will appear on the page exactly the same. So the last thing I want to show you is how we can manipulate the current HTML which is on the web page. So I'm just going to go down to the body section and create some HTML. So I'm going to create a H1 heading and just leave the contents blank for now. And the H1 I'm going to give a ID of title. And then I'll just copy the script tag just down to the bottom there. So we're going to use JavaScript now to manipulate the HTML which is currently there. So there's actually no text in the H1 heading at the moment, but we can use JavaScript to put some text in there. So just as before, we're going to target the full document to start with, and then use the dot, and then we're going to narrow down the full document to the element that we want to change, which has the ID of title. And JavaScript has a way of doing this called get element by ID. And notice that all the words, apart from the first one, begins with a capital letter to make it more readable. And this is fairly standard in a lot of programming languages and is what's called camel case. Okay, so the full document is being narrowed down to an element, which we're going to select by its ID. So in brackets and then quotations, we can add the ID that we want to target. In our case, it's title. And then another dot. And we want to select the inner HTML. And then equals. And then we can put in quotes the text that we want to replace. So we want to display on the screen the text. So in my case, I'm going to put displaying JavaScript in web pages. And then a semicolon at the end of that statement. So I hope that makes sense. We're setting a HTML element which has no text in at the minute. And then we're selecting the full document or the full web page. And then we're narrowing it down to the ID of title. And then we're setting the inner HTML, which is the section in between. And we're setting that value to be equal to this text here. So let's save that. And if you refresh the web browser, we've now got the text that we set in a H1 heading. So this method is a lot more commonly used and can be a bit safer than using document.write. So now we looked at 4 different methods of including JavaScript into our web pages. I'm going to head back over to the text editor and take a look at JavaScript comments. So comments are available in JavaScript, just like many other programming languages. If we want to add some notes to our JavaScript, and we want these notes not to be read by the browser, we can add a // and this is for the single line comment. And we can make some notes such as set in a HTML. And adding comments can be useful for if you take a break away from coding and you come back after even just a week or two. They can really help you remember what you were doing. And as well as adding notes for yourself, you can also comment out the actual code in just the same way. And you can see it goes grey. And this section of code now won't be read by the browser. So it's useful if you just want to temporarily remove a section of code without actually deleting it. So the 2 // are used for single lines. And if you have many different lines or a block of code that you want to comment out, you can use a multi-line comment, which begins with a / and then the star, and then ends with the star and the /. Okay, so that's the end of this video on comments and displaying JavaScript. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.